Alright guys, welcome to VALORANT News. It's all going on at the Esports World Cup. Big drama going down. Sentinels surviving a massive scare against XLG with crazy tech pause drama happening throughout the series. Zekken explains exactly what went on and the fact that Sentinels have survived to live to fight another day at the World Cup. And it's still not an easy task to get out of the groups by any means. Lots happening over the last couple of days. G2 already eliminated from the tournament. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Plenty to get into. We're going to start right about here. So G2 confirmed, well, this actually wasn't the confirmation, although they did do that as well, that Shanks was joining their team. So congratulations, Shanks. You joined them as effectively their watch party man. Watch the EWC opening ceremony on the 10th of July. The funny thing is that the World Cup is underway. Like, the World Cup is officially started now on the Valorant side, but the opening ceremony hasn't yet happened, and G2 already been eliminated before the opening ceremony even goes down, which is pretty dramatic. As Shanks says, thanks G2 for allowing me to support you guys. Had a lot of fun in my golden era. With that being said, looking for a team. So he was on the team for basically 24 hours, and we'll get into what happened to G2 here in the coming minutes. Before we get there, this is an update from Leviathan, not playing, of course, at this tournament, and they've got a new head coach. Itapata, as we know, is gone. They're bringing in Desmo instead, so they're making some serious changes. What does that mean for their next steps? What does it mean for somebody like Demon 1, who, with all the talent in the world, is effectively just sitting there doing not all that much right now, for understandable reasons maybe, but, you know, it's obviously unfortunate when a player like Demon 1, who was the world championship winning best player in the game, it looked like at a time, is sitting there doing nothing. Whether Desmo and Lev have any other ideas about this, it will likely depend on what happens in their scrims and in their future results. Challenges is underway. This was one of the results from Envy, potentially looking like the favourite to win Ascension this year and qualify. Notably though, of course, Ion and Kane Zera not old enough to play in the VCT if they were to qualify, which is why a little while ago there were some questions as to whether Demon 1 to Envy could be an option if they were to win Ascension and needed a couple of changes. But yeah, they took care of business, let's say, against SRG yesterday, 13-5, 13-2, and they've started off their campaign pretty nicely again in the North American Challengers Series. Couple of scrim bucks, Verno and MIBR beating someone or another 20-3, and then some other scrims. Cloud9 played Crew, EG are up 15-3, but we're not sure who against, and Cuba are up 14-9. Of course, the main Sentinels team are out there right now in Riyadh, and that's about what we're going to get into. So a lot has happened, as I say, right? The way this tournament has been run is just a lot of Valorant all in the space of a few days. We don't tend to get that in the regular VCT, and some would say that's good, some would say that's bad. But it's definitely a bit of a different tournament to what many of these players will have experienced before, and certainly to go there for the first time for these guys will be a bit of a shake-up. I mean, last year when I was there for the Call of Duty stuff, they had a room where the players could go and get a massage done. There was like a physiotherapist and like a massage specialist there, so you could make sure you're nicely warmed up for the day. There was this area where you could go and get yourself a smoothie or whatever, like totally free of charge, like in the player lounge. I don't know if that's the same player area that the players are going to use this year. It may have changed in the last 12 months, but it definitely will be a new experience for the players getting out there for this. And well, there was a lot of talk about it yesterday because of how cold it was on the main stage. I'm thinking that's what Boaster may be up to here, although I don't want to comment too much on it. But it's hot out there in Riyadh, as you know, it's in the desert, so it ain't exactly cool this time of year, but air conditioning is a thing, unlike here in the UK, and apparently it's a rather strong thing. And as a result, Alpha says it feels like Antarctica playing up there on the main stage. Xander replies and said, I felt like I just played my first Valorant match in an igloo. We're playing Icebox in an icebox. You know, just step outside, bro. It's plenty hot out there. Jing says that he's freezing. Like, Texture says the same thing. Kayak says the same thing. So, I thought it was pretty interesting to see all the replies from the players to say, okay, lads, like, yeah, we get it, it's hot outside, but maybe we could just turn up the temperature a fraction on the main stage. That would be helpful. So some discussion there for the players about the playing conditions, because if you're playing and you're feeling super cold and your hands are freezing because the place you're playing in, you're probably not going to play your best stuff. If you guys have ever tried playing an FPS game with cold hands, you'll probably know what I'm talking about there. So Alpha and Fnatic, regardless of what they think and maybe some of their feedback to the organisers for the rest of the tournament, they got the job done yesterday, but notably enough, as did NRG. Now, FNS, of course, since departing from that team, he's watching from home and says, damn, they're about to win a third major in a 12-month span because, you know, they won some really big tournaments when FNS was on the roster, such as the Suit Valorant League last year. But yeah, as he says, respect, but Som is fake, and Som says, I wasn't really hitting my shots today, but we got the 2-0 versus RRQ. Now, look, if you look at their group yesterday, you might well argue, okay, like nothing too special. But look, they took down Heretics 13-4. They played Heretics on the Lotus. They smoked them 13-4. No questions asked. And then they played RRQ and they won that 2-0. And again, it was pretty comfortable. They won the split 13-7 and the Pearl 13-8. So NRG advanced to the second round into the playoffs with, honestly, one of the more comfortable runs of any team that we have actually seen. Now, we'll talk about the Sen game in a second. Paper Rex, though, we saw these results happen yesterday. They then took down Carmine Core 2-0. So Paper Rex advanced 13-10, 13-5 in the end it was, into the playoffs. The Lotus was a little scary, and then they went on a big winning streak to close out the game. So they advanced to the playoffs. BBL, having beaten Sentinels, 2-0'd DRX to make it through as well. They won a 14-12 Sunset, and then the Ascent was more comfortable at 13-6, and actually winning all of their attacking rounds, which is pretty impressive, right? You go 6-6 on your defense on Ascent, you're thinking, okay, this could get kind of interesting, but no, BBL, they handled business. So very impressive from BBL, from Paper X, from NRG, and then of course Fnatic, after winning their first map, and we'll see that result in a second against 100T, they then 2-0'd Gen.G, 15-13 in a crazy Ascent, and then they won the Icebox 13-7 again with a strong attacking showing. We know that those guys have always liked this map. But Fnatic, it was a 13-11 on Icebox against 100T to get over the line. You know, 100T will be pretty gutted about losing that one in the way that they did. Gen.G then beat Edward 13-4 to knock them down to the losers bracket with a Foxy9 Masterclass. And as it stands, 100T and Edward, one of these teams is on the verge of elimination already. And yeah, it would be gutting for 100T if they were to lose. They won the game 13-11. They lost the game 13-7. And then the Ascent, they're currently down 5-3. Edward won the pistol. So we'll see what happens there. Probably talk about it in detail tomorrow with all the other reaction to it. And Heretics are currently playing Titan Esports Club. And that's another best of 3 series to determine who goes out immediately. So that's what's been going on. There's other key results, though, to get into, and the main one being a Sentinel. So looking at the bracket and seeing who they play, here we go again. They were playing a Chinese team. Just before we get to that, though, the other Chinese team, or one of the other Chinese teams in Bilibili Gaming, they took down G2 2-1. So G2, coming into this tournament, were a massive favourite to potentially get some revenge on what happened back in Toronto. Unfortunately for them, Leaf couldn't make it. If you guys aren't aware, he's been having some health complications. His doctors told him, you probably shouldn't be travelling to this tournament while we take care of this. So Shaq, their assistant coach, stepped in instead, and actually did a very commendable job, all things considered. But the team as a whole just wasn't where they wanted to be. They lost the Sunset 13-3. They won a map. They won the Pearl 13-4. But then the Icebox was a 13-11 gut-wrenching way to lose for G2. So very fascinating stuff, really. And as Valen says, we got dead last of the tournament. Thanks to Shaq for stepping up and being the best sub. We had lots of fun. But regardless of our situation, the result is definitely disappointing. So it's okay. It's a mid-season invitational, kind of. I mean, it's not an invitational, but it's kind of like an MSI feeling tournament, the EWC, right? It doesn't matter for the World Championship qualification. It's just a lot of money at the end of the day. And it will become increasingly prestigious, I imagine, over time as well. But yeah, for G2, they're definitely gutted to lose in this way. And questions will be raised on, okay, like, you know, let's say, can Leaf return? Is Leaf going to be ready in time for stage 2? And if he's not, then what do they do? Because they're going to need a proper sub at that point, you would well imagine. And if he is, then maybe they go back to normal, maybe they don't. Who knows? Intro into your thoughts in the comments. And maybe normal for G2 isn't good enough based on what we saw recently. Then Sentinels played XLG, and this was a crazy long series. They won the Lotus 13-9. The Sunset, there was like a tech pause that took forever to resolve. And fair play to Viva and Happy Way for really turning up in this map here that XLG won. I will say, Sentinels continue to look very questionable to me. I think looking at this roster, the way that they play, I can't really argue that they've got much better. I think that's the concern for me, is that this Sen team, yeah, they win the series in the end, but they never make it very comfortable. And as the season has gone on, I kind of expected a little bit more showing of some takeover power at times from maybe Narrator especially, Bang sometimes too. And yeah, that kind of happened on this final map here. So fair play, they got the job done. But it wasn't easy. And yeah, the team just doesn't, it's just not the same as the Tens and Sassy team. I think that's the bottom line for me, but intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. But Sentinels do get over the line. It wasn't clean, it wasn't easy. They had their moments. As I say, they lost the Sunset, which is rare for Sentinels. And then it went to a Haven Decider where Sentinels generally got the best of XLG and they won a very long best of 3 indeed. So yeah, fair play, congrats to them. As I say, the bracket, we'll see in a second, looks something like this. So tomorrow it's DRX versus Sentinels. The winner gets through to bracket play, the loser doesn't, and you know, DRX are actually considered to be the quite substantial favourites in this series. So yeah, mega series, Casey versus Billy also coming up, RRQ versus the winner of this, Gen.G versus the winner of this, and as, yeah, I think it was Zekken who said, look, every tech pause was on me, my game was alt-tabbing mid-round and pre-round, not on me, but it was from his PC basically, even if I wasn't pressing everything, never had a problem like that before, thanks XLG and the refs for patience. So yeah, very confusing problem that they were running into. You know, you don't see too many of these issues nowadays, but again, maybe we'll call into question some of the equipment utilization and stuff like that. And as Zelsis says, GG's, we survive a little bit longer, tech pauses are insane, thanks to the refs, sorry to XLG, and they get the job done and move on in the tournament. So very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. And yeah, this is a big game that is near enough coming to a conclusion, and Edward Gaming continue to streak away for now. So hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.